You're listening to the RTI Press Pass powered by Rocky Top Insider.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Rocky Top Insider Press Pass podcast. The college football world continues to roll on, with Tennessee right in the middle of the legal conversations that are ongoing. On today's show, we're going to be diving into the latest news about Tennessee quarterback Joey Aguilar's legal battle, what the latest news from Friday is, what that means for the Vols quarterback room, and much more, including maybe even an early look at Tennessee football's 2026 schedule, now that the portal news and the portal cycle and the madness of what happened is in the rearview mirror. My name is Rick Butler. Join with me today, just a couple of your average bird lawyers, Ryan Shumpert in the top right corner for anybody watching on YouTube, and of course, Ryan Sylvia down at the bottom as well. Good morning to you both. Hope you are doing well on this Wednesday morning, February 4th. How are we today, Ryan? I'll start with you. You and I had a bit of a late night at the arena last night, but Tennessee basketball picked up 4 straight wins. So some good news on the basketball side of things, but we're going to be pretty much talking about football today.
Yeah, they're doing well. As you were doing the lead-in, I was just kind of kicking myself. I was like, I should have gotten another cup of coffee before we started recording. So, well, a little bit tired, but that's how it goes. I love the Charlie Day reference, a little bird law. Go toe-to-toe on bird law, see who comes out the victor. But no, doing well, and a lot of interesting Tennessee football stuff for early February, which you usually think of as being about the slowest time in the football calendar.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Sylvia, what about you? How are things going?
Doing good. I also clocked the Charlie Day reference there. Just some bird law being talked today on the podcast. But I'm doing good. I don't have mice running around my house, so I'm doing all right.
Well, that's a reference to me for anybody who did not know, which would be the entire audience. There's only a select few of people that know. You maybe can give me some advice if somebody has dealt with this before. I don't want to worry my wife too much by, sharing all of our ongoing things. But with the cold weather that was brought in over the weekend, we found a couple of mice in the house, some mouses in the houses. Mickey is running rampant with his friends. Maybe just a couple, though. So I have been, reaching out to Shump and Sylvia and Jack Foster and some of our other friends about what we should do and how I should go about this process. And I'll tell you what, just real quick, I went to Walmart today to get some bait trap things. Nothing that traps them per se, but bait to kind of go and handle things externally. I bought 5 boxes of these baits, and each one of the baits can kill up to 12 mice. What I didn't know is that each box had 2 bait traps in it. So I now have enough firepower to take care of 120 mice. That might be rummaging around my house at some point. So I think I'm good there. I don't want to worry people too much. But if you have any advice, let me know. Hopefully this is just a blip in the radar. But what a weird thing. It's one of those things you have no idea kind of how you're going to deal with it until it just pops up one day. And oh, great. Now you're at war. Now you're about to, defend your home turf like Kevin McAllister in Home Alone.
I'll say this since I exposed you so rudely. It's a clean. I've been to Rick's. It's a clean place. It's spotless in there. He's not a slob. This isn't a leaving trash out issue. It's a nice establishment he's got going on. So do not. If your suggestion is to clean up, it's a clean area. I can confirm.
The only parts of it that aren't clean is people bring cookies over. It's just it's sometimes some crumbs. When there's class from some people bringing cookies. But for the most part, people are doing a good job cleaning up after that.
Absolutely. And whoever brought those cookies wants no credit.
Please do not stop.
No.
Do not give credit. Do not give credit to the person who brought the cookies.
Yeah. If only they might have bought shrubbery of sorts, succulents. Maybe that would go a different way. But, we're at where we're at, right?
I don't think they'd want credit for that either.
No. Yeah. Absolutely. No credit.
All right. Well, let's dive into things today here on a chilly Wednesday morning in Knoxville. Look, we're talking about some of the ongoing legal conversations around Joey Aguilar and his fight to return to the Tennessee football team for the 2026 football season. Obviously, winter workouts are ongoing right now, but then after that, it's going to be spring ball. We know that that's right around the corner. We now have a date for the orange and white game, with which, by the way, free admission. I know that makes some Tennessee fans happy who have been talking about some of the ticket pricing and things like that. April 11th, I believe it's going to be at Neyland Stadium. Somebody can correct me if that's incorrect. But spring ball is going to be here before we know it. You got summer workouts. People are going on vacation. People are doing all sorts of stuff. And look, I know it's only February right now, but the fall is going to be here before anybody knows it. Tennessee wants to be able to move forward with its quarterback conversation. But really, a lot of it right now revolves around Joey Aguilar. It feels like with what he was able to do last year, Tennessee would want to go into this offseason with Joey Aguilar at the helm. I think, to me at least, that would be the best case scenario for where this football team is. And we can talk about the trickle-down effect if this situation does unfold in this certain direction. But it does feel like Tennessee would want Joey Aguilar back after what he was able to do in his first season with the Vols. But, of course, in order for that to happen, Joey Aguilar is going to have to kind of win in the courts, or at least make a good bit of progress in the courts in order to be able to come back to Tennessee. And ultimately, look, when I was, and you guys as well, when I was getting a very prestigious journalism and electronic media degree at the University of Tennessee, I sort of wish somebody would have told me to just go ahead and maybe get a minor, right, and basic law or something like that, because it is truly amazing how much not only us as the media, but also I think fans have had to teach themselves over time just about the different legal processes. And it does feel like, in a certain way, it's just kind of the direction that college football especially is going. I know we talked about Charles Bediako and Alabama basketball a lot 2 weeks ago, but college football really seems to be where this conversation is right now. I'm sure all these sports, though, are going to kind of get in the mix as things go along as well. But ultimately, at least from my understanding, the skinny is that Joey Aguilar was part of the Diego Pavia federal lawsuit. He dropped out of that. He was able to get dismissed from that. And Joey Aguilar is now filing in city court. He's filing in Knox County. Now, there was a little bit of a development here on a Wednesday morning before we started recording at 10 a.m. local time. And Ryan, you had the write-up for Rocky Top Insider. So if you would, just kind of walk me through some of the latest news that's going on with Joey Aguilar and his fight right here in the county limits of Knox County.
Yeah, a judge had, awarded his request, I guess, for a temporary restraining order against the NCAA. That's typically more important in cases where eligibility cases where the season's going on. Like, that's what Charles Bediako is playing on right now, a temporary restraining order. So, this will, in theory, allow him to join the Tennessee team for the time being. But the main date's still Friday, when there will be a preliminary injunction held and a more permanent decision will be made. Now, I do think that temporary restraining order kind of tells you generally that the judge sees Aguilar's case favorably, or is siding with him early on. And I think it puts probably a little bit more burden on the NCAA's lawyers to prove why he shouldn't be eligible. But a good sign, but for Tennessee, a good sign for Joey Aguilar, but not a permanent decision, is kind of, I think, the best way to sum up what happened here on Wednesday morning.
Yeah. Sylvia, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like when he was a part of the group one, it was kind of like, I mean, we talked about on the show, it's like, I don't know if this is really going to go anywhere. It doesn't feel like he's going to be Tennessee's quarterback next year, if this is the route he wants to go down. But when you go the individual route and you go the route that he's now on now, I mean, it kind of feels like he's probably going to win this. We'll see. I'm not, like you said, we're just bird law.
That way.
We're bird lawyers. We don't know exactly how this is going to play out. But it does feel like, I mean, he's got a really good chance to win this. And now it's a whole separate discussion on if that's even best for Tennessee, or we can talk about that afterwards. But it does feel like right now he's got a pretty good case. They already granted the year of eligibility to those JUCO guys last year. Now, this is not the exact same, but it's the same principle of JUCO is not under NCAA. It's not Division I division. It's a whole separate deal. And that shouldn't count to his eligibility. So you definitely see where he's coming from. Like, Charles Bediako, I don't see where you're coming from. You forfeited your eligibility when you declared for the NBA draft. You made a bad decision. That's your fault. You have to live with it. Joey Aguilar, whether you agree or disagree on if he should get it, I think, like personally, it feels like JUCO should count towards your eligibility, but you can at least see the route that he's going. It makes more sense. And then people get caught up with his age too. Like he didn't play his first 2 years of college football too at the JUCO level. There was a redshirt year and then COVID canceled the season. So people get caught up with his age. Jackson Ross is also really old because he didn't start college when he was 18, like most people do. There was the receiver for Arkansas that played in the MLB. He was like 30 something. Like there's a lot of there's a lot of old guys in college football. So I'm not too caught up on his age. It's more just the amount of time he's played college football, which would be his sixth year coming up, but just his fourth as an NCAA athlete. So again, I see where he's coming from. Do I personally think he should get it? I guess not, but it feels like he probably will at this point. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, it definitely feels a lot more likely now, and I think that's what, like, Pavia won the case last year, or got really the preliminary injunction more than the full on case. And it felt like the NCAA had gotten a lot better about fighting this type of lawsuits. I mean, Alberto Osuna, a number of other, student athletes. I think Georgia had a baseball player as well that lost, that didn't get it. And it felt like the NCAA was getting much better. But that's the thing with all this, is it's just like, it's just a judge deciding it. And it's not like this stuff's made it to the Supreme Court. So it's not like we're having some one permanent decision. So you can just get different rulings in different cases. Like, it was just one judge in Nashville that sided with Diego Pavia, and then because of the NCAA just knew they were going to have to fight everybody on that lawsuit, they set parameters for these types of people in this situation will be eligible. And that's where Alberto Osuna was not the right year to get it, and so they drew a line and said, all right, we'll try to fight some other of these, but we just can't fight all these battles. So that's kind of the way this thing just swings a lot, because different, just like anything, different judges have different opinions on this argument, and that's kind of been the case with a number of these lawsuits. And it just feels right now, we'll see, but it feels right now like the judge in the Tennessee case, or in the Joey Aguilar case, seems to kind of agree with Aguilar's argument. And it'll be on, if he does, which to me the temporary restraining order at least seems to indicate that he leans that way. The NCAA will have its day in court on Friday, and we'll try to argue against it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And so the next step for Joey Aguilar is seeking a preliminary injunction, which, a lot of these big words I think can go over some folks' head. It does to an extent mine, so I'm right there with you. But I think that ultimately is what Tennessee is looking for, to be able to, extend this thing out to where Joey Aguilar will be able to play in that 2026 season. I think, you guys mentioned a second ago, the Bediako situation is interesting. And I thought Rick Barnes put it in a really great way when he was talking about it before that Alabama game. I think there is a difference, like you had said, Sylvia, when you forfeit the remainder of your eligibility and then try to regain it retroactively. I think that, to me, there should be a line drawn there. But there was a lot of conversation about Charles Bediako doing so in his, in the local area, and potentially having a bit of a more favorable path. And ultimately, that's just how these things work out. I think there is maybe a little bit of a home court advantage feel to it. And I guess that's the same route that Tennessee is trying to go. I think it was, like you guys had alluded to at the beginning of the show today, I think it was telling, that Joey Aguilar dismissed himself, or had the approval for dismissal, to get out of the federal case with Pavia and just say, hey, you know what, I'm going to try to fight this on my own. I see what else is going on here in the landscape. And you're right. I think the maybe not morality is the right word for it, but, for lack of a better term, kind of the morality of the conversation, I think that can be looked at and just discussed at a later time. And certainly it will be over time. But if you're Tennessee and you want Joey Aguilar as your quarterback, which feels like they probably do, rather than going to the year with a freshman quarterback to some degree, then it's no surprise to see kind of Tennessee and Joey Aguilar fighting their battle this way.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not. And look, I agree with everything Sylvia said about how the Bediako situation is different and worse. I don't know. I just do see some similarities in how Tennessee's going about it. The fact that you're you have an inadequate situation at quarterback. And you don't have any other options now. So this is how you have to try to address it. And you're trying to change NCAA rules. And look, it's also different. I mean, I guess it's kind of the same because of the James Nanji situation that Bediako wasn't the first one that was trying to change the G League professional rules, and neither is Aguilar. Diego Pavia, as we've discussed, tried to do it a year ago, but I don't know. The whole thing, I'm just over. I'm just tired of very logical NCAA rules being sued in court and cast aside because people aren't getting their way. It's ridiculous to me. And look, again, I don't think Joey's argument is insane, but he's to me, it feels like he's played plenty of football. He's played plenty of college football, and he's had his chances, and it's I don't think he deserves more eligibility. So we'll see. I don't think it's I guess he'd be Tennessee's best option at quarterback, but it's not like Tennessee's trying to get Hendon Hooker back for another year either. So I think that part of it's a little bit interesting too.
Joey Aguilar played his first season at City College of San Francisco in 2019, where he took a red shirt. Then he had the 2020 season canceled, as Silvio alluded to a little while ago. Then he spent 2 seasons at Diablo Valley College. That was in 2021 and 2022. From there, he goes and spends 2 seasons at App State, and then obviously this past season at Tennessee. So you can see where he's trying to say everything before that Appalachian State debut season, if you will, and I guess 2023. Yes, 2023 should not count towards having one final year of, I guess, this Division I football where he can earn a paycheck and continue to play. So you're right. He has been in the sport for a long time. He's obviously trying to make the case now that, the Division I level and is a lot different from his JUCO days.
Yeah, I mean, what it goes back to, too, is, I don't think he should have been able to play last year. I don't think Diego Pavia should have been able to play last year. And that just kind of, the can of worms was open when that happened, I guess. But it's not like, man, it was fine once, but now you draw the line. It's just like, man, you shouldn't. And Miles Kitzelman, start to all those JUCO guys. And now I just named all the Tennessee guys because they're the ones on the top of my head as someone that covers Tennessee. But there's a bunch throughout the country that had that JUCO year last year that it was like, man, I don't know. If that's, I don't know if I agree with JUCO not counting towards college. I understand the argument. I understand where they're coming from. Of course, Joey Aguilar right now is going to want to play another year of college football and get that nice NIL bag and be Tennessee football's quarterback for another year. I completely understand where he's coming from. It just, I don't know. It doesn't feel like, with how many NCAA rules are stupid and should be overturned and all that stuff, yeah, sure. And you can't make money on your name, image, and likeness. Now that, obviously that's gone very far since that started, but yeah, that makes sense. Get rid of that. As Shumpert said, some of the rules, though, yeah, I mean, this is one of the rare ones. It feels like that. Yeah, maybe the NCAA is right on this one, and you still go into court and trying to overturn all these things. It is frustrating. It is annoying, and it's why a lot of people are souring to a certain extent on college football. Now, you're lying if Joey Aguilar wins this case. I'm not watching a snap of. You're lying to you. So you're going to watch every snap. You've watched
Joey Aguilar's what pushes you over the edge. Yeah.
I'll believe that when I see someone actually do that. But it is annoying, and I understand the frustration.
It is, and look, Josh Heupel doesn't do this, but this is what gets me. You have these coaches just complain, just grind their teeth about how bad the NCAA is and how there's no order anymore. And it's like, shut up. You people you want order until it possibly does not benefit your team, and then you just try to push sue the NCAA and get what you want to help your team, which, to an extent I get. You're paid. Josh Heupel is paid to win football games at Tennessee, so I get why you do that. And I get why any coach, again, Josh Heupel doesn't complain about that stuff, so I'm not trying to hit Josh Heupel over the head. But a lot of coaches who do complain about that would be doing the exact same thing Tennessee's doing. So it just makes me roll my eyes. Everybody wants change. Everybody wants some unified thing that tames it down. But anytime anything would potentially try to get tamed down, the first team it doesn't benefit is just suing, and you have no chance of taming it down.
Yeah, as you said, to Josh Heupel's credit, it's been anytime you ask about the portal or it's always frustrating. Sure, not the same sport as it used to be. Still the greatest sport there is, and I'm adjusting every day to do the best I can. It's the right answer. So you do have to give him credit for that.
Definitely.
I think, as you said, though, it does turn the page to is this the best route for Tennessee? And why does Tennessee want to go this route? And I think it's, to me, does Joey Aguilar raise the ceiling of Tennessee football next year? I'm not sure it necessarily does. I think it just really raises the floor. Like with George McIntyre, Faison Brand, or Ryan Staub, or whichever the three would have won that job, there was a chance for disaster next season for Tennessee football. If the defense doesn't click in 1 year under Jim Knowles and the quarterback situation's shaky, maybe you miss Chris Brazzell more than you think you will, even with the addition of TK Keys and then bringing back Travis Smith or Darius Jackson, maybe the offense takes a step back. There's a chance it could have got really ugly. Again, I mean, there still is a chance. Who knows if Joey even wins this, but there still is a chance that it could have got really ugly with one of those three guys. I think with Joey Aguilar, it's a much safer play. Do I think that now all of a sudden, oh man, they're going to be in the college football playoffs? I still don't think so. I just think it makes it like, man, this team could have went 6-6. Like, okay, they're probably pretty comfortably around that 8-4 mark like they were last year. Maybe they can sneak to a 9-3. I still don't think they're a top 12, 11, 10 team to make the college football playoffs, but you feel better about avoiding disaster, which is why I think Josh Heupel would want to make this move, not because he thinks Joey Aguilar is the best quarterback in the country, but because it's safe, and then it bridges you to next year 2 under Jim Knowles, where you would expect that defense to really start hitting its stride like it has previously in his career. You have those returners. You still have a lot of young guys on offense, like those offensive line. You think Sam Pendleton could be a guy that's around that next year. David Sanders won't be draft eligible. Maybe you can convince Braylon Staley to come back for another year, even though he'll be draft eligible. There's a bunch of pieces around what would then be a young quarterback, but at that point, it's either a redshirt sophomore George McIntyre, or redshirt freshman Faison Brandon, which you have to feel a lot more comfortable with in the situation this year. So I do understand why Josh Heupel's doing it, but I don't necessarily think it's like, man, you got to do this because now you're a national title contender. Now you're an SEC title contender. I still think you're probably
it's not Hendon Hooker.
Yeah. If it's Hendon Hooker, then it's like, oh my God, yeah, start raising the banners. But it's like, we saw Joey Aguilar, I don't want to say lose Tennessee some games, but throw Tennessee out of some games when things were close.
He was a very average quarterback, SEC quarterback last year. Yeah, which is fine. I mean, given where Tennessee was, Tennessee had average quarterback play to 2 years before as well. So I don't even mean that as a knock on Joey, but sometimes you just need to mention he led the SEC in passing. Like, yeah, he did. He wasn't the SEC's close to the SEC's best quarterback, and what was a pretty weak quarterback year. But to your point, like average is fine. Average raises your floor. I don't think Tennessee was going to get much better than average quarterback play with what they already have on the roster, or is going to get, with what's currently on the roster next year. And you kind of know what Joey is. I think that the X factor there is how much did the tumors on his arm affect him. I mean, that's what they're claiming in the lawsuit, that he dealt with that there's a lot of mystery still about that, but that he dealt with that for most of the season. And that affected his arm strength and it affected his performance. So I certainly, not that it was like a 180. I do think Joey played worse down the stretch of the season than he did play early in the season. So, maybe you argue second year in the system, full off season and, not dealing with injuries. He could be, not that I think it's going to be a Heisman contender, but he could be better. I think there's, probably an argument to be made there.
Yeah, I think that's the wrinkle on the other side of it is, to me, it wasn't necessarily when the struggle started to hit later in the season. It wasn't, man, that was the right read. You just didn't make an accurate throw. That was the wrong read, and it became intercepted because it was the wrong read, and it was into double coverage. You didn't see, someone trying to learn those different types of things. But maybe that is something that gets cleared up when you don't have an abbreviated window to learn. And you saw what happened from 21 to 22 under Hendon Hooker. The only other time Josh Heupel's had a returning quarterback at Tennessee to be the starter, you saw the jump Hendon Hooker had. Now, do I expect, again, Joey Aguilar to be 22 Hendon Hooker? I don't, but I'm curious to see what type of effect that does have. That was what I think we were all expecting this past year with Nico was, okay, it wasn't great as a redshirt freshman with Nico, but what's it going to look like in year two? Is there going to be that big jump? Because you hear quarterbacks like I remember Aaron Murray, the former Georgia quarterback, was talking about how he felt like things really started to click his third year in the system, but second year as a starter, which is what it would have been for Nico at Tennessee. And that's when he started to actually feel comfortable. That first year where he was starting, it was still really foreign and really uncomfortable to him. Maybe a second year for Joey Aguilar in a full off season and all those different types of things, he would take a significant step as far as just decision-making, comfortability. and you start to turn down those turnovers. And then all of a sudden, maybe you do start to take the step from, okay, he was a good, decent SEC quarterback to, okay, he's one of the better SEC quarterbacks this year, which means you're probably one of the better quarterbacks in the country. I am curious. I'm not ruling that out. I just think he's probably more so an okay SEC quarterback. He's gonna, again, I don't want to say he lost you games last year, but he certainly didn't help in some of those games. But then some of those games he was really good, and he did help you, and he kind of took over some of those games at the same time. And you know what you have, and it's probably average. You don't know what you have with Faison Brandon or George McIntyre or I guess Ryan Staub, and that uncertainty, I think, scares you a little bit about where that floor could be.
Yeah. I think that Sylvia, real quick, I think that Sylvia does make a good point of, it certainly raises the floor because of what you had just said with those other three quarterbacks and the freshman status of, at least in my opinion, the two main ones that would be kind of competing for that job and that you would probably try to, that would probably likely take over as starting quarterback. But I do think that there is an argument to be made that the ceiling does have some room to grow just naturally because of the continuity aspect. And if you don't have Aguilar as Tennessee's starting quarterback next season, there's really 5 straight seasons with a different starting quarterback. You have Hendon second year, then you have Joe, then you have Nico, then you have Joey, then you have the next. I think just for the coaching staff perspective, being able to have a guy that they know a little bit more of what to expect, a guy who has gone to Alabama and does have a much better understanding of what playing in an environment looks like when you got to go to Texas A&M, in College Station next year in November with, probably something on the line during that game, kind of what to expect during those moments. So I do think that there are steps that the ceiling can be raised with Joey. We all know that going into this offseason, kind of the two biggest question marks were quarterback and then defense overall as a whole. And you can break the defense down to a lot of different pieces. But, if Joey is at or above of where he played last year, how much improvement can you get out of that defense to kind of, again, lift all ships and see if Tennessee can get to a better spot than it was last year? I say all that with a very big if Joey Aguilar can also improve, or at this point, is he kind of is what he, is he what he is, right? A guy who, as we saw last year and as kind of the cliche was made going into the season, a gunslinger quarterback, a guy he'll make risky throws down the field. He's got the arm talent and the arm strength to get the ball into certain places. But you're right, Sylvia. I remember some of those. What was the game last year where it was right before halftime, and there was just no, I think it was at home.
Oklahoma.
It was just Oklahoma, and there was just a terrible interception, and you just feel like he didn't process that all quickly. Can the processing, I think, take a next step? That's certainly a question mark, and it might not be something that comes to fruition, but I do think that, as you guys are saying, it's Tennessee's best path moving forward to maintain where they're at. We talked about how important this year is for Josh Heupel to get to a comfortable spot. But I do think that there could be, a couple of next steps that not only Joey Aguilar, but the coaching staff and how they could work together to achieve. But again, there are some pretty big ifs that come with that as well.
Yeah, I think, and Sylvia, you touched on this to me. The other big long-term effect is I think it just kind of buys Tennessee time. And the George McIntyre Faison Brandon decision, it just felt like that was the competition. It was going to be George McIntyre this season because Faison Brandon's a true freshman and because he's a true freshman that missed most of his senior season of high school due to injury. Like, it was just hard to see him in 1 year going from that to starting in the SEC. This, I think, gives Tennessee a full season to watch those guys in practice, try to feel like you know what they have, and then hopefully, from their sake, you can keep both of them and have a competition going into the next year. Or if it doesn't feel possible to keep both of them, you can at least have 2 years of watching George McIntyre and a year watching Faison Brandon and try to make a little bit more educated decision on who you want to keep. So I think from when you just look at Tennessee's quarterback room in the long term, that plays more dividends, because if you felt like it was going to be McIntyre this year, that just led to a really tricky situation of it's like, when do you go away from McIntyre? I don't think you can start McIntyre this year and then make it a competition next year. I think you would either have to say McIntyre's our guy, we're rolling with him, and Faison Brandon leaves, or say we're actually gonna go with Faison Brandon moving forward and have George McIntyre leave. This feels like a better chance to get them on a little bit more even playing fields, and then have a competition in 2027 to see who would be Tennessee's starting quarterback. Which, again, we're all talking about this like the Joey deal's done. Obviously, he's still got to get that affirmative that he's going to be back.
And then I look at it too from we're talking ceilings and floors and all that. Like there still is a high ceiling for Faison Brand, George McIntyre this upcoming season if one of them is to start. I mean, it's not like it's a foreign concept for a freshman quarterback to go in and be really good. I mean, Caleb Williams was really good at Oklahoma as a true freshman. You look at even guys like Bear Bachmeier at BYU this past year. Pitt had a freshman quarterback that played really well. Now there's going to be some, I guess, more Bryce Underwood, who wasn't bad, but he was more, I think, what you would expect from like if Faison Brandon won the job, where it's like you can see the flashes, you see the potential, you like where it's going, but you're not taking over games or anything like that. But then there's the really bad, and kind of look to DJ Lagway maybe when he got thrust into action 2 years ago as a true freshman. The turnovers were just absurd. So there's the full spectrum of it, but there is a chance you could see Faison Brandon or George McIntyre go out and not have prior experience and just be really good. It's not like we're talking about 3-star guys that come in and you're just really rolling the dice and hoping you found something. Like Faison Brandon is the number 3 player in the 2026 class, according to 247, the number 3 quarterback. He spent time as the number 1 quarterback in the class. Who knows where he would have finished if, as you said, Shumpert, he was healthy that senior. Maybe he would have been the number 1 quarterback. George McIntyre, not a 5-star, but a really high 4-star, and someone that a lot of big name teams like the Alabamas of the world and stuff were going after and wanted to bring him in. Like there's a reason that he's talked about like he is too. So there is a path as well where whether it's Joey Aguilar doesn't win this case and you go with one of those 2 guys, that they could be really good. Or I think what is probably the best case scenario, if you're just rooting for the best interest of Tennessee, it's probably Joey Aguilar wins this case, comes back as a starter. You keep the train on the tracks for 1 more year, buy yourself a little bit more time, and then really try to pretty much push all the chips into the middle next year. Second year under Jim Knowles, you have the returning defensive pieces, and then you have a little bit more time to watch, as you said, Shumpert, George McIntyre, Faison Brandon, make the decision between those guys and really try to go all in that year now that you bought yourself a little bit more time.
Yeah. I think that's exactly the way to look at it. And again, Ryan's right. You know, we're talking about this in the assumption, right, that Joey Aguilar does return. If not, then hey, we're spending our next couple of weeks. We're heading into spring ball, talking about that quarterback competition happening right now, and that's not going to be too hard to flip that switch and go ahead and start talking about these 2 freshman players. But it does, I think, make things really intriguing for the future and what Tennessee will do in 2027. With some retention aspects, I think, at play here if that situation does unfold. But you know, again, talking about this just kind of under the hypothetical analysis that Joey Aguilar is in the granted his preliminary injunction and does return to Tennessee in 2026.
And this does feel like something that'll have to move pretty fast too. Just, I mean, as Aguilar states a million times in the thing, where it's like, you do have to figure out where you're going from it. Like pro days in March, like that's like a month away, like the team pro days. And that's something that if Joey Aguilar is not able to play next season, he's going to want to throw in front of scouts. Do I think he's a draft pick? No, he's probably not an NFL draft pick. Could he be an unsigned free agent and then carve out a role and go this
Practice
and that?
squad.
Yeah, absolutely. That could be in his future, but that all starts with knowing what your future is. So this does feel like something that could move pretty fast. I guess the hearings on Friday. We'll see what comes from that. But I don't think this is going to be something that we're going into spring camp and we're still like, man, I don't know exactly what's going on with this. Like by the time that really starts to roll around, I think we're either talking about Joey Aguilar as the returning starter, or we're talking about the quarterback battle that's coming up between the 2 freshmen, young guys, and then Ryan Staub from Colorado.
March 16th, first day of spring practice too. So that's from the Tennessee side of things. Have to have something by then.
Exactly.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Again, man, just a couple of small town bird lawyers talking about the ongoing legal conversations with Joey Aguilar. I got to admit something. I've been thinking about it for the last 33 minutes. I didn't know that was a Always Sunny in Philadelphia reference. You guys are going to groan. You're going to roll your eyes. I know that as a Jim Cornette reference. However,
oh my gosh.
That's what I said. I just said exactly what happened. However, I know that he's a big Always Sunny fan. So now I connect the dots, right? I see that this dot connects to that dot connects back to me connects back to you guys. I see how that all unfolded now. But I just, there was a little bit of something in my gut. I was like, I just can't have them believing this lie, you know, that I did that on purpose, that I had a direct reference, that they all were proud of me for. It's been killing me for the last 33 minutes. So that's where I knew it from. But I think that it all ties back to what we're talking about. Just had to get that off my chest. That's been bothering me.
For those who don't know, Jim Cornette's a WWE personality, podcaster. How I know him. I don't know if Sylvia's been cursed with listening in the car as much on road trips as I have, but
No.
he's actually pretty entertaining. But WWE just
I'll say this before we pivot to more Tennessee football talk. But Rick, I'll say this. For maybe the first time ever since I've been a kid, I saw a WWE kind of highlight tape that I was kind of like, this is awesome. It was, I don't know if I'm gonna say something, Kofi, Kofi. His Royal
Kofi.
Rumble saves, pretty cool. Got me there.
He's doing handstands and things. He's making those big jumps onto the.
It was like a receiver tiptoeing on the sideline. Kept the toes on the stairs.
Yeah,
I'll give him that.
Pretty athletic.
It was good.
It's pretty.
That's
pretty athletic.
That's all I'm giving you today.
He's not around much anymore. He's gotten old. That was many moons ago, but that is good. Now I'm proud of you. I'm glad that we could all connect, and there's no hard feelings about my initial reference, and we could find some commonality and some common ground here before we move back into Tennessee football.
Let the record show I did not like the video, though. I wanted to know more of it.
You didn't give it a favorite, or you didn't enjoy it?
No, I didn't physically like the video. Like, I did not want it to be part of my algorithm to see further WWE content. I'm not interested.
I'll tell you what. Speaking of algorithms,
that would be funny.
Speaking of algorithms, every time I go on the Rocky Top Insider Twitter account now, I am bombarded with Tennessee Titans news and notes and coverage. And that's from our own Ryan Shumpert, who is still Twitterless. He still does not have access to his account. We need to go march down the front steps of the Twitter headquarters, wherever it is, maybe Texas, maybe somewhere else. We need a maybe even a riot. We need to start up a riot. We need to get this back for Ryan because I'll be honest, the RTI algorithm was, I thought, very neutral, very good for anybody, and now it's looking like the Shumpert living room, family dining room conversations. It's pretty funny to go look at these days.
Yeah, I mean and I'm doing it without liking that many tweets either. So it's been some good work by me to cultivate stuff. Some like tweets, but mostly just cultivating it by some Paul Kaharski searches, by clicking on some certain content. So yeah, it's slowly and surely looking more like my For You page was before I got locked out. Some Nate Oates slander. I'm scrolling through it right now, so a little bit of Nate Oates slander in there.
Yeah. How about Todd Golden punching back a little bit after the game on Sunday afternoon and going directly? Nate Oates is really, I think, in the spotlight for the wrong reasons after the last couple of weeks. I think people have really decided that, hey, we really don't like this guy, and now we want to talk about it a little bit more. It feels like he's gone through the ringer a little bit, and because of his own ways, though, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, losing more than anything, they're not playing very well.
Yeah.
So that's got the Alabama fans on him a little bit too, and obviously makes it a little bit more of an easy punching bag after the Bediako stuff.
Todd Golden saying we're going to beat them anyway. I don't care if they have an NBA G League player, and then winning by 30 was. Your thoughts on Florida and Todd Golden aside? That was awesome. That was great.
That was.
Yeah, he called his shot. He took the bat, he pointed to right field, and he hit it into the second deck. I mean, it was a blast that he called his shot. Man, I had one more. Oh, that was it. As we're talking about Twitter real quick, it just as a quick public service announcement, and Sylvia did this as he won't call himself a hero. We will call him a hero. He sent this out the other day. There's a lot of accounts that are getting hacked right now. And that's mainly in the form of DMs that want you to click a link, whether it's a podcast award list, or they want you to join something or see a blog or something like that. the public service announcement here is just that if you get a link from somebody, even if it's somebody you know and have constant communication with, just be extremely wary. If it's someone that you certainly haven't talked to in a while, maybe a mutual follower or something like that, but not somebody you communicate with on a regular basis, be extremely wary. I know Houston Kress, formerly one of my coworkers over at Fox Sports Knoxville, he got bit by the same bug that Shump did a little while ago. We've seen some other people, and it seems like that's kind of the Trojan horse method of how to get into somebody's account, how to get through those barriers is through those links in the DM. So if you're seeing those, be wary. Again, just quick public announcement. Don't want it to happen to anybody else. It seems like that's what's going on.
Once again, podcasting the downfall of America. At least my downfall.
The great tweet of make podcasting equipment more expensive. And yes. As well.
All right. So getting back to the football side of things, we got about 15, 20 minutes left in the show. One of the things that we talked about doing for this program today and talked about at the beginning was just kind of going back through the 2026 schedule. It's been a little while since I think we talked about it. What was that revealed name? Maybe in November or so. I think it was towards the tail end of the football season. By the way, people have been attacking it left and right. I think it's a very easy thing to kind of come together on and disagree with, but any big takes on the, not that I think that Tennessee is going to be part of it, so our off seasons or our postseason probably will stay similar to what we saw this past season, but any thoughts on kind of the calendar that college football has released in the last day or so?
Rick just said you Tennessee bums ain't gonna have to worry about the college football playoff. Get ready to learn Duke's Mayo Bowl, buddy.
The Gator Bowl could be in play. The ReliaQuest Bowl could be in play.
Rick said Jacksonville, January 2nd is lovely from what I've heard. That was crazy.
Wow.
What is the difference between what I just said and you guys picking 8-4 in our next segment, which is clearly not going to be playoff bound? I'm going to come back at you guys.
It was more.
You don't think that?
You never know. Could be a down year.
It was more the way you said it. It's like the college football playoff calendar. Tennessee obviously isn't going to have to be worried about that, but
no,
just the way you phrased it. Because you're right. I don't think Tennessee's going to make the playoff either. But you're like,
thank you.
Obviously, this is not a Tennessee issue, but for Georgia and Texas, Indiana.
I think that Indiana is sitting there thinking like, oh man, how deep are we gonna have to play next year? Any big thoughts on the updated college football postseason calendar that is going to extend way out there into the year of 2027?
Yeah, it's crazy, terrible for the sport. I think it's gonna be 2 weeks between the quarterfinals and semifinals. Like, you just in some sense, you just lose interest in it when it's that long of a break. Like, I think this year, between the quarterfinals and the semifinals, maybe it was the semifinals. I think it was maybe semifinals and national championship. There were 8 or 9 NFL playoff games played in between that, where it's just just got to do something to condense it a little bit and not have it go as far into January and into the new, what's really a new season. It's already Tennessee's roster was set, and there was still Tennessee's roster was basically set, and there was 3 college football playoff games still to be played. So it's bad for interest. It's bad, I think, for the teams themselves as they try to just turn a leaf from one season to another. But yeah, it's we'll see if they ever get it changed. But definitely not the end of the world. But I definitely don't think it's good for anybody.
No, I mean it's dumb, but that's just every college sport right now. I don't think there's a good schedule in college sports at the moment. Everyone's dealing with transfer portal in the middle of their season, or you're going up against the wall. Baseball starts too early, but also you can't really move it unless you shave down games, because then you got to deal with other stuff. So it's just a continued issue that wasn't really an issue, I guess, for the most part before the transfer portal, and football is now running into it because they're expanding the playoffs. So you had to add more games, and it's frustrating. To me, the biggest issues are the transfer portal windows when they're open before the season ends and stuff like that. That's just bad. I mean, you look back to Tennessee, Ohio State 2 years ago, and they're losing not just, oh man, you lost your 5th string defensive. It was like, oh man, you lost a guy who's going to play 20 plus snaps in a playoff game because he knew he wasn't going to start next year and he wanted to get ahead of it. Like that's just ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, all the schedules are bad. I don't know how you are going to begin to fix it just because it is college sports and they're in classes and you have to be enrolled. Like the semester is underway and you can't still be figuring out your transfer portal situation when these guys are supposed to be taking classes. So I don't know what the solution is, but it's bad.
Yeah, I know that some people have kind of put together some hypothetical situations. I remember a post from Josh Pate just going mega viral with sort of his proposal for a new timeline. And I didn't think it was perfect. I can't remember it in its full. I'll say it was very valiant effort, better than a proposal that I could have come up with. So, kudos to that. But I just think it's a hard thing to get perfectly right. And Sylvia, you mentioned a lot of it, just from the watching experience. Like it's tough to have to go 2 weeks in between these playoff games. It's tough to have things drag out. You lose momentum with certain storylines. Things are coming up. It's the middle of the winter when there's things going on. It's tough to get through. But then you just mentioned, I think the other side of the coin, which kind of escaped my mind for a second, there was the whole transfer portal side of things. And that is a mess. And, the Duke's Mayo Bowl this past season, speaking of that from a second ago, that was on January 2nd. The portal opened on January 2nd. Like it's wild that, we had this bowl season last year where it directly impacted, 2 programs who were playing in that game and anybody else, I guess, who might've been playing on January 2nd. I can't remember, were directly kind of behind the 8 ball and getting into that portal mix. Not that there might've been other conversations going on elsewise, but again, that's a huge day for the portal being open, and so it just feels like the timeline is it's so messed up. Like you said a second ago, I don't know the perfect fix, but we'll sit here and criticize it, all we want.
When you're sitting there, you're Miami, and you got Sam Levitt coming to campus, and you're trying to court him and worry about what next year's quarterback situation is going to look like while you're trying to win a national championship. Like that's just ridiculous. It's dumb. But again, I don't know. Besides, I guess you would have to move the championship game ahead of when the transfer portal opens, which would mean a very tight window to get all those games in. And right now it's the opposite of a tight window. It's too long of a window. So there's, I'm sure, some way that you could make it work, but it's not good right now. And you brought up the Duke's Mayo Bowl. It's like, find me. I'm not playing in that game. I'm not playing in a meaningless bowl game on the day the transfer portal opens. You're right. It's not like you're screwed and there's no way you can have success, and there's probably conversations beforehand and all that type of stuff. But like, if that's the only option for us, we can't finagle our way into the Music City Bowl or something beforehand. I'm not playing on the day the transfer portal. It's not worth it. I'm not doing it.
That's not true. That's not true. Ryan Sylvia, if he's the head coach of a football program, he's not backing out of the Duke's Mayo Bowl for the transfer portal. He's backing out of the Duke's Mayo Bowl because he doesn't want to get the Mayo shower. Yeah. It's got nothing to do. Don't believe him when he talks about the transfer portal. He's got far higher priorities, and that is the Mayo bath.
It's because Mayo's gross. if it was ranch or a good condiment, I would do it. But the Mayo's the issue.
I think Mayo is fine on a good sandwich. There's nothing wrong with some Mayo on a sandwich.
I'll get covered in grass clippings. I do a lot of different things, but Mayo's not one of them.
I'll accept an achievement from Master Chief.
Yeah, I'd put on the hat, the Chick-fil-A hat that Josh Heupel refused to wear. He refused to wear it after they won this year.
Good call.
It was a power move to put it on his son, for sure.
It was a great pivot.
Maybe if they get in the Duke's Mayo Bowl and they win, Josh Heupel can get him to dump the mayo on his son instead of him.
And it really is a great pivot because it's like, oh, you're not going to let me have this experience with my son. Like, you can't say anything about that. Yeah, you got to dump it on his son.
I do think just from a very, and we're talking about some of these flaws and acknowledging that it's difficult with the bowl season. One, it's simple. Every bowl needs to be before the portal opens. Yeah. There's no need for any bowls to be before the portal opens.
Yes.
We don't need a bowl game on January 2nd. Have the last bowl games be 100%. January 1st, and off you go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
I would.
You want to run through the schedule quick before we get out of here?
Yeah, we've taken a lot of our allotment of time, so maybe at some point here in the near future we'll bring this back. But just kind of looking at the schedule for Tennessee, you start the season with 3 non-conference games, By the way, the orange and white game, as we mentioned, April 11th. You start the season with 3 non-conference games: home against Furman,
Good
at
team.
Georgia Tech, in Bobby Dodd, not Mercedes-Benz. Huge win for these two fan bases, and just the college football scene as a whole. And then you return home for the final home non-conference game against Kennesaw State. Then you get into your SEC slate. Remember, it's the 9-game conference schedule. Started with Texas and Auburn, both games being at home. And then from there on, really from the Auburn game, you're alternating home and away every single conference game for the rest of the season. Home against Auburn, at Arkansas, against Alabama, at South Carolina. You got a bye week on Halloween. Criminal to make Tennessee sit on the sidelines with the dark mode jerseys on Halloween. Home against Kentucky, which I imagine, there you go, there's those uniforms. At Texas A&M, home against LSU, at Vanderbilt to close down the season. Obviously, the schedule presents its challenges. You look just kind of at that final 2 out of the final 4 games after the bye week. You think that if Tennessee is going to be in competition around maybe a 3-loss team around that point, maybe even a 2-loss team around that point, you're looking at those LSU and Texas A&M games as pivotal contests for your postseason hopes. Tennessee does get Alabama back at home after losing in Tuscaloosa last season. You got another trip to Arkansas, which feels like you've seen the Razorbacks each year for the last couple of ones so far. And then you look ahead at that SEC opener against Texas. I mean, that's a gargantuan, absolutely massive September game, not just for Tennessee and Texas, but in that September slate as well. The Manning bloodline returns to Neyland Stadium as Arch Manning will be leading what it seems to be a very high octane and a very expensive Longhorns offense against this new look Tennessee defense under Jim Knowles.
For sure. And
what stands out?
Yeah, I think the Texas game for sure. I think just the home slate and SEC play. Tennessee coming off a year where they were 1-3 in SEC play at home, and certainly not hard to see 3 losses on there. Not I wouldn't predict that, but can Tennessee get back to having the home field advantage that they had, and really the more success that they had, I should say, than home field advantage in Josh Heupel's first 4 years at home, because I think if that's what Tennessee's going to need to do. I think the road slate's going to be difficult. We'll see what Vanderbilt post Diego Pavia looks like, but South Carolina is a tough place to play, and I think not that I think they're going to be great, but you look at some of the stuff they did with the roster this offseason, I think it's certainly going to be a losable game, a very losable game, a near toss-up type game. And A&M is going to be a very difficult game to win on the road. And we've seen Tennessee lose. We've seen Tennessee lose to bad Arkansas teams in Fayetteville, or a bad Arkansas team in Fayetteville. So you just know to me, it feels like there's multiple losses there on the road. So can Tennessee find a way to go 3-1 at home and put together a solid 9-3 season? Again, I think you got to strive for 10-2 to make the playoffs, but to me, it's hard to see 10-2 on the schedule, and that's where SEC going to a 9-game conference schedule and not getting the playoff expanded to 16 teams, felt like a failure for Greg Sankey. So those are kind of general thoughts. I think Auburn's kind of a sneaky, difficult game in some ways too. I guess there's 5 home SEC games with a 9-game schedule. So that's a sneaky, difficult game too, with some of the stuff Alex Golesh has done, and obviously just the familiarity there's going to be between those two sides. But, you talk about the grind of an SEC schedule, people talk about that and joke about that, and it was easy to joke. I mean, Tennessee's like, what grind are you talking about? You play Mississippi State and Arkansas and Kentucky. Like, what grind are you talking about? Your schedule's easy. This year, we'll see how everything unfolds, but this year feels a lot more like that, where week in, week out, it's going to be a lot of tough games. Yeah,
and depending on how Lenore Sellers is playing, kind of at the midway point of the season, Tennessee's got to go back to Williams-Brice Stadium. Has Tennessee been there since the 2022 infamous situation? No? So got a return trip to a place that obviously was very unfavorable the last time they went there. That Auburn matchup, Brian, you talked about it a second ago. A quick reminder that it is a host of characters returning to Neyland Stadium. Head coach Alex Golesh, former offensive lineman Parker Ball, former defensive coordinator Tim Banks, former offensive coordinator Larry Scott, former wide receivers coach Cody Burns. Any players that I'm missing off the top of my head right now?
Chess Nimrod.
Chess Nimrod, yeah.
Chaz Nimrod returns to
Eccles.
Neyland. You have a former Tennessee tight end commit in Jonathan Eccles, who originally followed Alex Golesh to South Florida and now is following him to Auburn as well. It is going to be a massive homecoming for a lot of representatives of the Auburn program, most notably Tim Banks and Alex Golesh, former defensive coordinators here under former coordinators here under Josh Heupel.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. I also look at just quickly the Georgia Tech game's interesting to me. I mean, it's the early season non-conference.
Yeah.
It's always going to be the kind of where are you at game, the litmus test type of game. But this one to me, like especially if Joey Aguilar comes back, again going back to that, if Joey Aguilar is your quarterback next season, I think you should be fine in that game. If Joey Aguilar is not your quarterback next season, that game to me becomes interesting. It's a true road game, as Rick said. You're Bobby Dodd, so it's not like you're getting the neutral site where honestly maybe more Tennessee fans might have been at Mercedes-Benz than Georgia Tech fans if they played it there. You actually have to play on the road, and it's going to be your first time playing, Power 4 competition. I don't want to disrespect the great Furman Paladins, but it's not going to be the same situation.
It's going to be tough.
It's going to be. I
might get kicked out of the press box for cheering. F you one time, F you two times, F you three times, F you all the time.
It's going to be when Furman gets the opening kickoff and gets a first down before punting. Movie. It's going to be unbelievable.
If Furman gets the first down before they trail like 14-0, it's going to have to be celebrated like a major victory because I think there's going to be a whole lot else going to Paladin's way in Neyland Stadium.
But with that said, that's why so let's say it is George McIntyre phase on Brandon. Like, yeah, you get the game reps, sure, but it's still like, okay, well, let's see it against Georgia Tech. You'll actually see what it's going to look like against Georgia Tech. Now, Georgia Tech shouldn't be as good as they've been the last couple of years. Haynes King is gone. You return Brent Key as your head coach, but
lost a lot of coordinators.
Yeah, and you're going to have a quarterback battle of your own going on, whether it's Alberto Mendoza, obviously Fernando's younger brother from Indiana transferred there, and then they have a couple of young guys as well that I think they like. So as far as I know, in my limited research to this point on what Georgia Tech looks like next year, it will be a quarterback. I don't think they've promised the job to Mendoza or anything like that. So we'll see what that looks like for their offense and how good they are. But it's still like a game where Faison Brandon's your quarterback, let's say, true freshman, true road game, second game of the year. See what happens. I don't think you can just roll into the SEC schedule 100% like you're going to be 3-0. You should be, but I'm very curious what that game looks like, and I guess how the rest of Georgia Tech's offseason looks like and what they're going to look like by the time Tennessee plays them.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Man, a lot to get into with the schedule. A lot of interesting things. I think you can probably pick something out in each month. About a potential kind of changing point in the season for Tennessee in each one of those months as we talk about this 2026 schedule. Again, 9-game SEC slate, which is really going to only add to the drama of what Tennessee wants to do and how they try to make their attempt back to the college football playoffs. All right. Anything else before we get out of here today? As we approach 1 hour, we've obviously talked a lot about Joey Aguilar, Tennessee quarterback situation, a little bit about the college football world in general, closing things out with the schedule. Anything that we might have missed along the way?
Nothing comes to mind for me.
No, I got nothing.
All right. Well, in that case, let's go ahead and get on out of here. Hey, thanks everybody so much for listening. As always, you can find this show and many more on the Rocky Top Insider network of podcasts. We've got the RTI Press Pass in the middle of the week. We've got the Rocky Top Insider Rim Runner with Ryan Shumpert and Bob Baskerville, breaking down the latest news and notes from Tennessee basketball, SEC basketball, and, of course, the college hoops world as a whole. We've got, of course, our Sunday night staple, the Rocky Top Insider Lowdown with Chris Lowe and Bob Baskerville. Last week, they talked to Bishop Boswell. The week before that, they talked to Josh Elander. Hey, Tennessee baseball is right around the corner. Maybe even get RTI Diamond Pass. I had to think about that for a second. The RTI Diamond Pass with Ryan Shumpert and Jack Foster in the mix. That is absolutely a can't-miss college baseball, Tennessee baseball podcast that Vol fans will want on their radar. They will want to be subscribed to follow all the latest analysis with Josh Elander's first team in Knoxville. And then, of course, RTI Pancakes and Bacon. We talked about it last week. They posted a feature-length film on the Rocky Top Insider YouTube account, 2.5 hours, a bonanza of Tennessee football offseason coverage. if you want to go and listen to some Tennessee football analysis, you have a lot to get you through until spring practice with just that one podcast. But make sure you're hanging out with VFL Kyler Kerbyson and Reed Bacon as they present the Tennessee football news and analysis as only they can in a great fashion. We got a great network of podcasts over on the Rocky Top Insider account. You can follow them all at Rocky Top Insider on YouTube. You can also follow at Rocky Top Insider on all different social media platforms. Want to also give a shout out to our great friends over at WATE. This podcast, as well as many others on the RTI network, are available to watch on the WATE 6 Plus Smart TV app. That's for Fire TV. That's for Apple TV. That's for Roku TV. You can go and find it super easy in your television app store. WATE 6 Plus Smart TV app, and you can stay up to date with all the latest East Tennessee news, all the different coverage that's going on. I know I was glued to it over the last 2 weekends with all the weather happening, and of course, you can find some of our Rocky Top Insider content there. As Ryan Shumpert waits patiently to get his Twitter back, we will let you know that you can find some of his thoughts during basketball games over at Rocky Top Insider on Twitter. You can follow Ryan Sylvia at Ryan T. Sylvia on Twitter. Jack Foster is a great follow around this time of year with baseball coming up at Jack Foster Media. And if you want to follow myself, you can do that at Rick_Butler as well. Otherwise, though, make sure you're checking out, most importantly, RockyTopInsider.com each and every day. We've got a bevy of articles, posts, blogs, whatever it is, you name it, we have it over on RockyTopInsider.com as we're covering the latest news, notes, and coverage with Tennessee athletics. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for listening to the Rocky Top Insider Press Pass podcast here today on a Wednesday, February 4th. For Ryan Shumpert, for Ryan Sylvia, I'm Rick Butler. We'll see you back for the next one.